Hey guys, welcome to On the Couch with Vegan Mark. I'm going to talk a little bit about my parents. They're a very difficult couple to deal with, and I'm going to talk about why my relationship with my parents is far less than ideal. So, I wrote about in my autobiography a lot about my history with my parents, and the fact is that I don't know much about my history especially in my youngest years and before I was born. A lot of people know about their extended family. They know where their ancestors migrated from and so on. I know very little about that. And my parents have always kept themselves mum about these facts. So my history is shrouded in a lot of secrecy and doubt. And I want to make very clear that as much as I've tried to find out about my relatives and so on, I haven't had any connections with them. My parents deliberately exclude me from communication with my extended family, except with my aunt Nancy. So everybody else, they've excluded from making contact with them. So this is very problematic for me because basically I don't have a chance to reach out and to know my history and my heritage. So my parents speak at least three languages quite fluently. They speak English, Cantonese, Mandarin, and probably a few dialects as well, whereas I only speak English. So I'm at a great disadvantage when it comes to, you know, jobs that need multilingual skills or dealing, and especially talking with my parents one on one. It's very hard to deal with them on an equanimous level because they are always speaking in their own language and speaking in their own terms. My mum was very good at speaking on the phone, for example. She would speak on the phone for hours and hours with her friends and exclude me from any conversation whatsoever. And this was an attribute that was epitomized even from my youngest years. So they never brought me up to be a very, very equal-minded person. Well, they never brought me up to be their equal, I should say. Although the person that I am is a very compassionate and very kind and loving person, the actual um, circumstances in which I was made that way were very oppressive. So, what's my father like? He's a very I would regard him as the term that I came up first was gruff. He's a very gruff person, so it's hard to speak with him, naturally to start off with. He doesn't express himself well. He does express some interesting ideas sometimes, but you really got to wait for them to come. And you're like on tenterhooks for him to say something that's very important. And so it gets really infuriating and frustrating to have to talk with him on a regular basis. On the phone, he's not too bad sometimes, but you get used to his thought patterns as well, and I'll talk more about that as well. Is He had the training in martial arts, and that comes through very clearly as when the way that he walks, the way that he talks is like some sort of macho a lot of the time, and I feel that I'm his little fledgling in a way, in the sense that he is like the father figure. He's like the patriarch. He's got all the money and all the power. He's got the wife. He's got the big house. He's got the car. He doesn't share the car with me. He doesn't share. He doesn't give much money to me over the years. The only thing he's invested in over the years has been my education. So I've been to a posh school, for example. I've had some. I've had regular music lessons and speech and drama lessons. I've Apart from that, he's been very, very frugal and very, very stingy with his money. Even though he owns a car, he travelled. And especially in the last 15 years, he's travelled extensively throughout the world, whereas I've stayed put within Australia since 2000, and I only travelled twice out of Australia in the years after my leaving senior school. So for that reason, he doesn't treat me as an equal, that's to be sure, and he thinks that he's going to, bombard me with money in the future when he dies. He might leave something for me when he dies, which is going to be, 20 years from now. It's going to be a hell of a wait. Rather than letting me experience and enjoy the YOLO experience, you only live once experience, when I'm in my 40s, which is what I idealize. I bought my apartment out of my own money that I saved up. My father didn't expend any of his money on that. I spent all my money on that. And I saved up for my pension. The pension that I get was, I only get, at the moment, I'm getting $940 a fortnight on my pension. It used to be much less than that. It used to be like $600 a fortnight. So I was actually saved up. Most of my money was spent on food, on really unhealthy food, because I couldn't afford to buy anything more expensive than what I got takeout, like an olive oil greased focaccia from Baker's Delight was my default meal every day for lunch. And I was able to cook a little bit, but not very much. And I was living in a household where cooking was pretty difficult as well, during my 20s and my late teens. Because my mother never encouraged me to cook with her, and she never encouraged me to cook for her, except on, she did enjoy my meals, but she it was always an afterthought. She never said, I'd love you to cook me this, or gave me ideas or inspirations to do cooking for her. So it was really oppressive in that way. Same thing with the piano, of course. My dad mentions that he likes my music in the reports, but he never mentions that to me personally. He never mentioned to me that he was eager for me to practice something or to play something in particular. He never appreciated the sort of music that I appreciated, and he never challenged me to further my musical development, except for the fact that he gave me musical lessons. So he paid for my musical lessons. That's the only thing that I can be appreciative of. And to this day, sure, I can appreciate music at a high level of, a high degree of appreciation. But my parents were never able to speak with me on that level, and that's unfortunate. So living with my father was difficult because he never, like at the dinner table, he never appreciated for a long time, for like the whole time that I was living with him during my early 20s and my early 30s. Sorry, during my 20s and my early 30s, he never appreciated the idea that I was a vegetarian for that long. And he would complain about, and rebut me and give all the bogus arguments that carnists give about vegetarians, like all the ideas that you need to chomp on something hard to keep your teeth in good shape, all these nonsense arguments. So talking with him was difficult, and being able to relate with him was very difficult. My father had his own bedroom, larger bedroom, with my mum. My room was next to my brother's room, and it was very difficult to live next door to my brother, because of the noise concerns, which my parents never took any attention to. They never reproached my brother for making too much noise. They never told my brother to interact with me. My brother was always doing his own thing, and my brother had a very private life. So I never had anyone who I could interact with properly. My father gave me only $600 a month, which is not very much money, but it was enough for me to save up a little bit. And if he'd given me more, I would have felt comfortable enough to spend enough on healthy food and cooking regularly for myself and doing all the normal things that a normal person would do. But my father ingrained in me a discipline, an over-discipline of saving up money. And he also discouraged me from buying my current apartment. He said, you always got to rent, you always got to do this. And in hindsight, I believe that it's difficult to know what was the correct decision. I should have negotiated this apartment, the price of this apartment, and negotiated down to $180,000 or $160,000. Whereas actually I spent $199,000 on this apartment, which is far too much. But my father never gave me the wise advice to do what was right at the time. Or if he did, he never expressed it in a way which I could readily take his advice on board and say, I'm going to do this and do it properly. So my father doesn't comment on my videos, he doesn't react, he doesn't respond very readily to my correspondence by email or Facebook or WhatsApp. It's very hard to deal with him because though he does respond, he only responds in his own way, and he only responds in a very gruff way. So he doesn't respond in a way which is like, I liked your idea about this and I had this to say about it. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say, I like this video and but I thought this and this and this could be improved upon. So to get feedback from him is like getting water out of a stone most of the time, or all of the time. He also speaks much more fluently with his patients. Like a lot of his patients admire him for his advice, but he doesn't give me the same advice in the same way, and he doesn't respond to me in a very readily and forthcomingly in a way which I can take to heart and really learn to appreciate his presence. So when my psychiatrist asks me, what's my relationship with my parents, and they say, you've got to maintain relations with your parents, and you've got to, are you speaking readily with them by phone and all that stuff? All that stuff is really, really harrowing because my parents don't respond readily to me. So how can I respond readily to my parents? It's just unfair. My mum speaks better on the phone with me, but she's also quite narcissistic. She doesn't ask me about ideas and stuff, and she doesn't speak about ideas. She speaks about her life. She speaks about what she does. She speaks about going to the library and spending your time by yourself and reinforcing all these terrible behavioural habits. Although she does say go out. She doesn't say, go find some friends. She doesn't say, did you do something different today? So, for that reason, I have problems with the way that they relate to me. So I'm going to share this video with my parents, just give them some ideas about how to relate to me better. I don't think they'll take it to heart because they're very, very ingrained in what they do. They've never shown any improvement over the years with my advice. Although the one thing I would say about my father is that he's softened a lot. He's not quite so macho about the way that he deals with me. And I think he's a lot more relaxed, which is a good point. But in general, the way that he deals with me is like complete rubbish.